Yes, yes. Edwin Diaz, after giving up a grand salami last night that we all saw in a heartbreaking, a heart-wrenching fashion as the Mets dropped Game 2 of a 3-game set against the D-backs. What we saw yesterday, 8-5 was your final. After the Mets took Game 1 by a final score of 8-3. And now for the first time since June, the Red Hot, the best team in all the National League for the past 2+ months, the Arizona Diamondbacks lose their homestand for the first time since June, in which they have lost a home series. The New York Metropolitans, led by David Peterson yet again, led by Mr. OMG himself and Jose Iglesias, rally late and win this series, win this season series. The Mets now have the tiebreaker on the Diamondbacks, the Padres, and the Cardinals all in the wild card race right now, folks. That is amazing. Yes, we still have a tall task to climb, but to say the Mets are out, that they are done, I didn't hear no bell, baby. They're still swinging and they're still trying to have themselves a playoff push. How's it going, all you amazing Mets fans? We're back at it with the latest New York Metropolitan postgame segment presented by BetUS, America's #1 sportsbook that has you covered all your sports betting needs. Make sure to check them out today by clicking that link down below in the description. That way you too get a 125% bonus on your first 3 deposits, up to $2,000 for all your sports betting needs. And what I want to see from each and every one of you amazing Mets fans in the live show right now is to spam those W's. That is what I want to see. The Mets needed this victory. They needed this series dub. This was truly, if the series was lost for the Mets here, they're at least 4.5, if not 5 out by the day's end of the wild card. Yes, is it over? No, but doesn't mean they're really close to getting things over. Yes, with the Mets securing this victory, if the Atlanta Braves somehow, someway lose their next game, the Mets will have gained a full game at least in the wild card standings. They'll go from 4 games to 3 as things currently stand. As I just mentioned, this is a Mets team right now that still sits 3.5 out at the time of recording this, with a potential to gain another half game with the results of the Atlanta Braves matchup there, everybody. But let's get into this. Let's break down everything that's transpired in this matchup. My apologies also for my intro running there just for a second, folks. But spam those W's in the live show. Rapid fire them in the comments. We're going to break down this ball game as we always do for the #1 Mets postgame segment, not directly affiliated with the Mets themselves, here live on YouTube to over 26,000 strong. Live to our total of what feels like 70, 80 plus on Twitter, between at the WardyNYM and WardyNYM Twitter X accounts, as we're live there as well. So all my live viewers on Twitter, please know I'm only going to be interacting with our live viewers here on YouTube. So make sure you head over back to the YouTube channel, hit that like and subscribe button, and let your voice be heard as we live react to break down together a vital, a so needed series win for this Mets team. Guys, I was with you. I saw the lineup of Carlos Mendoza today. You saw no Alvy, you saw no Vientos, you saw some big boppers in the lineup, out of the lineup today, headlined by Vientos. I'm sitting here saying to myself, you mean to tell me in the biggest series finale the Mets have had yet this season that we are not starting one of our most important bats in the lineup there, Mark Vientos? Yes, I thought that was boneheaded. I still think that was a silly decision. Thankfully, though, Jose Iglesias, who got the start, and Jeff McNeil, over that being Mark Vientos, would have an X factor in this ball game that we're going to break down here in just a second, everybody. Thank you all so much for the donations. We are going to get to them in a second, but before we break down everything that transpired in this victorious matchup for the Mets by a final score, as we mentioned, of 3-2, we're going to get into David Peterson with another masterclass outing and exactly why you need to hear everything you need to know on the amazing southpaw, helping lead the way with the Samoan southpaw himself and Sean Manaea frontlining this rotation as of late. On the hitting end, the Mets did not have a lot to show for it in this matchup whatsoever, but they just did what they needed to do to secure the victory. One, and with a lot of guys coming off the bench in this matchup, I was impressed that the Mets were still able to leg out the victory in the end, but David Peterson did everything and then some that you could ask for, and the Mets offense was far from perfect, but thankfully for the Arizona Diamondbacks and for the Mets, they were just a little bit worse. So the Mets edged them out here, and let's rapid fire, let's break down this ball game as we always do. But before I get to your donations, before I answer your comments, questions, and concerns, as you guys smash a like and subscribe on the live show as you typically do, let's let it rip as we always do with the one, the official, a big one, baby, WardyNYM post-game chase.
Come and join us now. Talk about this game and gonna
a commonality that we saw with both teams today was it was a pitching class, for sure. The Mets offense in this one, mind you, had no Mark Vientos, had no Francisco Alvarez, and had no Tyrone Taylor, and had no Harrison Bader in the starting lineup. All the Mets' key righty batters, not named Pete Alonso, not named JD Martinez, and not named guys like Jose Iglesias, outside of Lindor because he's a switch hitter, were on the bench today in this pitching matchup, facing that being Nelson there for the Arizona Diamondbacks. It was a ballsy move by Carlos Mendoza to have such a righty-heavy bench the way that he did, knowing that I would still rightfully argue at least Vientos should have been in the lineup today at some point, especially a pinch hit at bat later in the game over Terens, I think would have been most feasible. But between David Peterson's brilliant outing and great defensive heroics that we're going to get into, that is far and away what carried the Mets in this victorious 3-2 matchup. Randall Grichuk got on with a single that we saw there in the bottom of the first, but that's all she wrote. Thankfully, after review, it would be overturned, and the first of 2 pickoffs on the day, thanks to David Peterson. The Mets would go on to throw out 4 runners today, including 2 of them via the pickoff there at first base. The first pickoff we would see, which would be on Randall Grichuk. Great job there by David Peterson, with one of the better pickoff moves you'll see from a southpaw starter in Major League Baseball. Then to begin the second inning, Pete Alonso did something that he has done brilliantly throughout this road trip, and something that we saw, I believe, just a series ago or so against the Padres, if not the Orioles, and that is a second inning, first at bat, bomb. Love that. Pete Alonso, first AB, leading off there in the second inning, rips one, and he got all that one. It's a towering shot for Big Meat Polar Bear Alonso. We see Pete, his 29th home run this season, a roughly 440-foot bomb, basically 110 exit velocity. Pete Alonso trying to have a 40-plus home run season yet again. With less than 30 games left, will he get there? That is my question to each and every one of you guys watching this live on a replay. What do you think Pete Alonso is going to end with on this season totals when we evaluate home runs in particular? And thank you guys for helping us get to almost 100 likes in the live show already. Greatly appreciate that, everyone chiming in live. Replay to the latest at Mets land here. Let me go up to make sure I didn't miss anything. No, I do not believe I did. Mets fans rooting for Phillies for the next 4 days, one in state season. And the crazier part is that we're going to play the Phillies 7 times before the end of the season. So we're going to be rooting heavily against the Phillies and potentially trying to push even for the NL East, which I don't foresee happening, but the Mets will definitely try to push when they have all those matchups against the Phils later this year. Before we get there, though, let's go Phillies, baby. You'll never hear me say that unless we need it in the wildcard standings, and that's what the Mets need right now, a massive series against that being the Atlanta Braves. If the Phillies can somehow take 3 out of 4, we're cooking. I don't think it's going to happen, but I hope it happens. Same way I hope that the Mets heading into this matchup could secure a series victory, and thankfully they did exactly that we saw by a final score of 3-2. Alonso gets his first home run, the game that we would see there. The Mets are up 1-0 early. Jesse Winker then rips a single right afterwards to have a runner on base. Mets don't do anything from there, so we advance to the top of the second. On the top of the second, we would see another beautiful out at first base, and this would be Jake McCarthy grounds into a double play, but after the challenge is reviewed, McCarthy, who initially thought he was safe at first, would be out on the double play turn there. Beautiful work on the throw, gets McCarthy out. A speed demon, still not a problem for the Mets to get him out there. Eugenio Suarez get on with a walk, but not after. Then we would see Corbin Carroll strike out to end the inning in the second. Jeff McNeil then begins the top of the third with a single. Jeff with a couple hits on the day. Another very solid day at the plate for Jeff McNeil, who continues to not only surprise me, but really show that Jeff is not only back, but he really is back to being the Jeff that we need him to be on a more consistent basis while providing the power going gap to gap like he did with a double late in this ball game. The Mets do nothing in the third, nor do we see a lot from the Diamondbacks in this ball game, but they do get the offense started here, sadly, a half inning later, as Randall Grichuk gets all of his 5th home run this season. It would be a 2-1 Diamondbacks lead after Perdomo gets on via walk. In a very Metsian fashion, the Mets give up their first runs of the day thanks to a 2-out walk first to Perdomo, and then the shot there from Randall Grichuk. It was a good pitch by David Peterson. It was not bad. It was sinker that I thought was placed nice. Grichuk just got all that one, and he pokes that to go right center field for Oppo, and that gives the Diamondbacks an early 2-1 lead. They will get a single. That's all she wrote, though, for the rest of the inning. So how would the Mets respond from here? And how the Mets would respond would not only only be vital for their victory in this matchup, but vital for their chance to still try to actually crack playoffs, if that is a possibility for this Mets team this season. And to expand on that further here, everybody, and Cam, thank you so much for the $1 donation in the chat. I appreciate that a lot. Also, apologies, folks, if I don't believe the jingle was running again, so I'm going to just make sure that's minimized and not a problem. I do see that donation. Camp, you're the best. Yoshima with the $5 haul as well says, biggest win of the season, more relieved than hype. Season wasn't over last night, but it definitely isn't over now. It definitely isn't over now. You're 1,000% right. Thank you so much for the support and the donation there as we continue to break down this victorious matchup of the Mets as a win. Again, biggest series win of the season, far and away. 3-2 here over the Diamondbacks, and 2 out of 3 in the series overall. WardyNYM rips a single that we would see in the top of the fourth. Nimmo will then get on with his 12th stolen bag of the season. Mets can't drive him in, however, as we then head to the bottom of the fourth, as David Peterson works a clean inning after giving up a leadoff single to the speedy Jake McCarthy. As we then advance to the bottom of the fifth, we would see the Mets get a 2-out double with Jeff McNeil, and this is where there was some frustration. Luis Torrens comes in there for the at-bat, and that's an at-bat where you have a runner there at second base. I understand that we're only halfway through the ball game, so maybe I understand the arguments a little bit more, but this is a spot where I thought it made plenty sense to potentially pinch hit Mark Vientos, and then you're going to have Francisco Alvarez catch for the rest of the game, or go down the route of someone else off the bench, because Torrens, while he isn't a horrendous option, he has cooled off with the bat quite a bit. But if there's one positive that came out of Luis Torrens in this victorious matchup for the Mets, it was his ability to throw out runners, something that Francisco Alvarez simply has not been able to do nearly to the level that we have seen someone like Torrens do this season. And the bottom of the fifth, it's a clean 1-2-3 inning of work there for David Peterson yet again. Brilliant work that he had at least one strikeout in the inning. And then Francisco Lindor, as we kick off the top of six, folks, and a 11th pitch at bat, gets all of that one, ties the ball game, was his 28th home run of the year. Pete Alonso with a bomb. Francisco Lindor with a bomb. David Peterson with a masterclass outing. That is all the recipes for success to win a tight, low-scoring ball game, and that is what the Mets thankfully did in this one. Lindor gets all that one, his 28th of the season now, still leading the way in F4 there among all players in the National League, especially since batting leadoff starting in May this season. Francisco Lindor, where would the Mets be without him this season? Oh yeah, I know, they would be absolutely nowhere. Nimmo with a single there that we would see his second hit of the day at least. Nothing else transpires in the inning. Mets are tied up 2-2. As we then head to the top of the seventh, JDM gets on with a single for his first hit of the day that we see. Then AJ Puk comes in as a relief option, and this is where more of the criticism, at least for me, came into play. As AJ Puk comes in to face McNeil and Torrens, McNeil, I understand, he grounds out. Torrens, though, this is a spot where it's a tied ball game. You're in the seventh already. Why not consider someone like Mark Vientos? I just don't see why you don't do it. There's no one on the bases. All you risk is potentially Mark Vientos barreling a baseball 450 feet off of a southpaw there in Puk. It made sense based on the matchup. Thankfully, it didn't hurt the Mets in the end, but that is where I had my biggest gripes with Carlos Mendoza today. I was not a lover of this lineup configuration as series finale. Big series win, but we were that close for it to be the other way around, and things would be 10 times worse in Mets land right now. So just shows you how crazy one little decision can make a drastic difference in a ball game, and how one from the fan point of view may seem the best on paper, but in reality doesn't matter in the end. All I know is Mendy definitely ballsy with his decision-making as a first-time manager this year. It's worked for him plenty. It's also hurt him plenty this year. This was a game where even though it didn't hurt him, I do not want to see this be the case yet again. Mark Vientos needs to be in every big game for the Mets for the remainder of this series. Unless he's injured, there is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It makes absolutely zero sense for it to be otherwise. We see, though, the Mets trying to continue to not only win this ball game, but try to get a sizable lead. Could they get a lead here? They get a one, not a sizable one, but not before Eugenio Suarez gets on with a single. Corbin Carroll then gets on with a single, and Jeb McNeil with an error that we see, a flip that he tries to get to Lindor at second base. It goes past Lindor's head. That allows the runner to go first to third there. This feels like prime time for the Diamondbacks to pounce. Thankfully, they would not, because we would get the biggest double play ball of the season. Kevin Newman grounds into a double play. Beautifully worked there by David Peterson to induce a clean inning of work there in the seventh. Mets are still tied 2-2 in this ball game, and David Peterson's final line, everybody, would be as follows. We were looking at 7 innings of 7 hit, 2 earned run, 2 walk, 4 strikeout ball, a whopping 2.83 ERA rate on the season. Are you actually kidding me? That is how good, that is how dominant, that is how brilliant the young southpaw David Peterson has been for the Mets this season. Let me know on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate his outing in the comments down below? below, because I'm going to tell you before I even deep dive more about David Peterson's outing and what I love so much about it, I'm easily, without question, giving David Peterson a solid 7.5 out of 10, if not 8. The only reason why I'm not going 8 is because he's still allowed 2 runs there, and that's just me being a little bit picky. David Peterson, along with Shamanaya, have been not only brilliant, but have been unbelievably consistent going deep into games as southpaw options in this bullpen, rotation for the Amazons. I cannot get over David Peterson's emergence this year and how he shut up the fans that believe that he can be nothing more than a 5-9 pitcher, including myself. Peterson has proved many fans wrong, and I'm so happy to be sitting here today and to tell each and every one of you, David Peterson, it was without question the biggest reason why the Mets won this ball game. Love to hear that. And that's what I want to know from each and every one of you guys watching live on a replay. To my over 1,000 viewers on live here on YouTube and on Twitter X, make sure to smash that like and subscribe button if you're consuming the content on the WardyNYM platform, as we are live after every single game throughout the entire course of the season, covering the Mets as we have been for multiple years on then now. And thank you all so much for the support there. But as we get back into breaking down this victorious matchup for the Mets in a gorgeous rally fashion by a final score that we saw there 3-2, Kevin throws the $5 haul out here and says, let's go Mets. Diaz with a bounce back performance, stretch run, huge September indeed, my man. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Oh, good. Appreciate the support as always, my friend. Your question is as good as the answer is as good as mine. I don't have an answer to that, my man. Appreciate the support, no less. And I appreciate all you guys watching live on a replay. I'm seeing some 7.5s. I'm seeing some 8s. I'm seeing some 7s. I'm seeing some 9s. You guys loved another David Peterson masterclass, rightfully so. And now let's get into breaking down this ball game a little bit more. Camp, thank you for that donation earlier as well. Kevin, thank you so much for becoming a new member. I didn't even see that initially. So happy to have you joining the family. As always, my friend, happy to have each and every one of you guys going up the list as well to make sure that I didn't miss anything here. I don't believe I did. Awesome. We are looking locked and loaded and ready to go. Shout out Bobby G, as always in the chat. You guys are the absolute best. So the Mets win this one, and they win it thanks to Mr. OMG himself. But before we got there, we got some great defensive plays by the Mets again. And what we saw here is Mr. Jose Butto coming in the bottom of the 8th inning. Now, if you're asking for my opinion heading into this sequence in the 8th inning, I wasn't comfortable. Jose Butto didn't look sharp his last outing out there that we saw, especially against the Padres. Diaz got rocked there that we saw to Jackson Merrill to walk it off sadly in that loss to end the series on a split. Jose Butto coming in after just 88 pitches for David Peterson. My big concern here is Peterson's cruising. He's looking strong. Why take him out when he's not even at 90 pitches? I know Peterson isn't accustomed to going terribly deep into games, 8-9 innings. That isn't his thing. However, Peterson was pitching so well that it really had me head scratching a bit why we're bringing Butto in here. But I have to give credit where credit's due. When you're trusting your gut with your 8th and 9th inning options, it's going to work when they're right, and it's going to work when it isn't right. But you're trusting them and having faith no matter what. That's what Carlos Mendoza did back against the Padres in San Diego when things failed completely in his face with Butto and Diaz back-to-back. The same way things worked beautifully for him tonight in the 8th and 9th inning for Butto and Diaz yet again back-to-back. Because we would see Butto come in here and give up a walk to Jock Peterson, because of course he does. A 2-out walk to Jock. Thankfully that wasn't a home run, because I'm not complaining there. Jock Peterson has been the Mets' daddy for many years now, between the Giants, between the Dodgers in years prior. Everywhere that we have seen Jock Peterson been, he has torched the Mets. Thankfully, the walk is all she wrote, and thankfully, Jock Peterson's lack of upside with his ability to run the base pass came into play beautifully, as he would be caught stealing second base, the 4th runner that the Mets catch either trying to steal second base or thrown out at first base today. This time, it's thanks to Luis Torrens. Shout out to Torrens, who continues to be absolutely nails throwing out runners this season, doing it at a better than 50% rate. I feel like that's just tremendous job there by Luis Torrens. Cannot say enough amazing things on his ability to be one of, if not the best backup catcher that you could find yourself asking for the Mets for them this season. And yes, even though the offense has come back down to life greatly, and he's a guy that will probably loom still probably in the 650 to 700 OPS range throughout his career, Luis Torrens has been absolutely fantastic for the Mets, and that was a huge final out there. Seriously, if they don't get him out there stealing second base, that run may very well come in to score seconds later, because you're going to get a big hit from, say, Lourdes Gurriel Jr. Like, that wouldn't have shocked me at all. Lourdes has been unbelievably hot the past month of baseball as well. Then we get to the 9th inning for the Mets, and this is where they're trying to secure the series victory. So how do they secure it? Let's get into the details about this one because Pete Alonso would strike out on a foul tip to kick off the inning. Mind you, the Mets are facing Justin Martinez, one of the best young flamethrowers in all Major League Baseball. Martinez with a sub-2 ERA entering this outing against the Mets. Ridiculous stuff, touching 100, 101 with ease. So much late movement on his pitches as well. Justin Martinez is pretty much a death sentence for any team trying to rally back in a ball game or secure a victory when you're tied 2-2. For the Mets and for Justin Martinez, things didn't go as planned for the D-backs and what history has repeated plenty this season. Because Jesse Winker gets on with a scorching double opposite field. Winker's 22nd of the year. Brilliant double by Winker, who gets all that one on a 100-mile-per-hour heater. Barreled it beautifully. I cannot emphasize enough how huge this hit would be for Jesse Winker. Because of Jesse Winker's heroics, he would then get to third base after we would see the runner bring him over, and J.D. Martinez with a high fly ball to right that would fall short there around the warning track. Jose Iglesias, who I will be completely blunt and honest about. I did not love starting over Mark Vientos if that wasn't obvious enough in this matchup. But Jose Iglesias, what has he done so brilliant for the Mets this season? Something that when you think of the most clutch hitters for the Mets this season, you think of Harrison Bader, you think of Francisco Lindor, you think of Jose Iglesias. Ninth inning at-bats have been tremendous for Jose, bolting down that first baseline. And this time he doesn't only bolt down the first baseline, he does it after legging out a huge single up the middle that we would see there. Gether Perdomo, who showcases his god-awful defense yet again, exactly why that schmuck should have never been an NL All-Star representative in 2022 over Lindor. Yes, it still pisses me off. Yes, it's a fan vote. Yes, I don't care. Yes, thank you for coming to my TED Talk. And yes, thank you for coming to this one, as the Mets would go on to win it by a final score of 3-2. Jose would go on to steal his fourth bag of the year thereafter. Then we would see Edwin Sugar Diaz come in the ninth, striking out Lourdes Gurriel Jr., getting Josh Bell the strikeout, and a pop out of Jake McCarthy. The fastball was lively. The slider was awesome. And the Mets secured their biggest series victory of the season to this point. And as we mentioned, and as I have mentioned plenty in the show already, folks, the Mets now stand 3.5 games out of a playoff spot. At absolute worst scenario, they are still 4 out by the day's end if the Braves find themselves still in the win column against the Philadelphia Phillies. If the Braves do lose their game against the Phillies, then the Mets will have gained a full game in the wild card and will be right back in the thick of things, right back in this one, finding themselves right around 3 games out versus 4 games. If the Mets lost today and say the Braves win, then they would be 5 out. So just to show you how much each game matters, but how much can change in a day, this is why no fan, any true fan, should be doing anything but actually writing off the Mets season. It's insane how many of you guys have been so fair weather to do that this soon, this premature, especially fans that were along for the ride that the Mets had with the 11 games below 500 to really claw themselves out of them. To say that the Mets season is officially over, for all the fans that have done that this season, miss me with the nonsense should the Mets get on a roll and find themselves in postseason play when it's all said and done. It's a 162, it's not a 130, nor is it a 50-game season. What does that mean? You got more baseball to be had here, and this is a Mets team that has shown an ability to rally back and to go toe-to-toe with a lot of teams this season. And when I look at this series against the Orioles, when I look at the series against the Padres, when I look at the series against the Diamondbacks, I am not inclined to believe that the Mets are, without question, the worst team in those matchups. Yes, ailments with the Diamondbacks with Ketel Marte, Christian Walker, and that being Gabby Moreno, do not help things. And I do believe that with those guys healthy, maybe the D-backs do win this series, but this is the same Mets team that also handled the Snakes fine earlier this year before they were on their heater. It's all about ebbs and flows of a 162 season, and for the Mets to have a winning record in a 10-game stretch against the Orioles, against the Padres, and against the Snakes is nothing to scoff at whatsoever. Yes, some of those losses hurt in the grand scheme of things, but for the Mets and for their run and pushing for playoffs, they're still very much right in the thick of it. It is right there in front of them. All they have to do is go out and grab it. If they don't grab it, they have themselves to blame. That's all there is to it. It's an unfortunate end to the 2024 campaign as they're pushing for playoffs, but it isn't for a lack of effort by this Mets team right now, and that's why I need to reiterate once more. If you truly believe the Mets season is over, why are you watching? Is the interest level beyond just is the interest level just because of fandom? Is the interest level because of something that has more so to do with the offseason and wanting to know about things then? I'm really curious because you got to be in it. We're in it. It's a 162, baby. Lock the hell in if you haven't already. We're going to live and die with this Mets team the same way that we have all year, every season long, and there's no reason for that to waver whatsoever right now. Thank you guys. Rich, great supporter in the chat as well. Saw that earlier. Rich E, how you doing, my man? Kevin, thank you so much for the donation earlier. Ricardo, great member as always, my man. Let's see. Wardy, you start platoon JD with Winker. I mean, that's what the Mets have already been doing, basically. They've given Winker some opportunities at the DH position. That's what they will continue to do. The Mets will continue this door of JDM and Winker at DH spots and giving Winker some outfield time as well. But now with Marte return, even though Marte hasn't been brilliant every time out there, with Marte back, it adds another interesting element to how much the Mets want to play Marte in the corner outfield versus coming off the bench, maybe getting a rep or two at DH. But yeah, Winker and JDM are two guys that will absolutely be getting continued reps there in that position. Just because you're a Steelers fan, I'll tell you, you can resign. That pains me, but I appreciate you being the first to tell me, Drew, if that is in fact the case. I'm going to double check right now to make sure that pain is a reality. Brandon Ayuk, for those that don't know, has been a very coveted wide receiver from the San Francisco Giants, holding out this offseason, looking for a big contract, and Ayuk is looking for that bag, and rightfully so. I have not seen anything to suggest, though, that Ayuk signed, though. So, hold on. 80% chance Steelers acquire Brandon Ayuk. That was posted 55 minutes ago from Steelers Depot. So, Drew, if that was a troll job, I greatly appreciate the fact that you went out of your way to send me a $5 donation and then troll me. If that's the case, I'm not complaining. Thank you so much for that. That's hilarious. If that, Drew, I got to know, is that true? Because I'm not seeing anything on Ayuk officially signing there with the San Francisco Giants. I think that is far from reality right now. Did it happen? 4/120? All right, hold on. Now I'm confused. You guys got to enlighten me real quick. Enlighten me in the chat, guys. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Ricardo, thank you so much for becoming a GOAT member. As always, Ricky, my man, yes, we had the post game running earlier in the show. Hope you enjoyed it when it was happening. Let's see. It's true? Oh, it's true. My bad. I apologize. Oh, it happened 6 minutes ago. Okay, so what? We're looking at 4 years, 120. Yep, that's right around what I thought he was going to get. 30 mil AAV for Brandon Ayuk. How do you football fans feel about that? Just on a side tangent. For my football fans out there that were evaluating Brandon Ayuk's holdout this offseason, the Steelers were going to be a prime fit. Now that the Steelers don't land Brandon Ayuk, I'm depressed because now we're left with George Pickens as our leadoff receiving option, which I don't hate, but we don't have enough protection around him. And that has my concern heading into the season, even with Russell Wilson and Justin Fields being anything but a certainty on what you're getting from the quarterback positions right now. Definitely want to know how you guys feel about that, though, for my football fans out there. I appreciate that a lot. Let's see. GSU, what? I don't know what's going on in the chat, but either way, we got more to break down this matchup, so let's do exactly that, everybody. And before we pan to get into more on the pitching and more on the offensive takeaways and this huge series victory for the Mets, let's hear a quick word from today's video sponsor that you all know very well, our great friends at BetUS.
BetUS, America's favorite sportsbook and casino. Live betting and racebook. We're celebrating 30 years with a historic offer. A 125% sign-up bonus on your first 3 deposits. Plus 10% gambler's insurance. Get started today. BetUS, where the game begins.
Shout out to BetUS, guys. If you haven't gotten involved already, make sure you click that link down below the description. That way you too get a 125% bonus on your first 3 deposits up to $2,000. And if you guys were smart and hammered the Mets money line to win the series outright with our awesome friends at BetUS, then you came out really winning big because they were at plus 110 odds. I hammered the Mets and put 50 down on that plus 110, so I over doubled my money throughout that span, which is amazing. And as we guys pan here briefly to BetUS's site, I'm going to show you guys some plays that I like tonight or tomorrow on the baseball slate for the latest matchups. You guys can tail these picks should you wish for a 2-leg parlay. If you don't want to tail, that's perfectly fine too. But regardless, for whatever sports betting needs that you find yourselves having interest in, make sure you check it out with our awesome friends at BetUS with our awesome promo that we have for you all in the comments, in the description rather, and in the comments of the live show here on YouTube. But as we see the matchups tonight, we have the Baltimore Orioles, the LA Dodgers. Oh, I love my O's. I really do. Astros, Royals, Blue Jays, Red Sox. We also got Friday, Braves, Phillies. I'd imagine that maybe that's when the series begins if it isn't tonight. I could be wrong. Braves, Phillies, that's a huge one. Marlins, Giants, Athletics, Rangers, Mariners, Angels. I'm going to say something crazy. I like the Athletics a lot at plus 131 tomorrow. I don't trust the Rangers at all, and the Athletics offense has been electric post All-Star break. So I actually like that matchup a lot for the A's if you want to take, an interesting bet there on the underdog. I never bet on the A's, but now might be the time to do so. Cardinals at plus 150, Yanks minus 170. Cardinals just waived Tommy Pham. For those that aren't aware today, Pham will likely be picked up, and I'd imagine by a team in the NL. I'm sure the Mets may sniff around that area again. I don't expect there to be rekindling the relationship. My best guess is that he could return potentially to a team like the San Diego Padres, where he's had success with in the past, and he could fill that corner outfield role for them, splitting time with Peralta and others until Fernando Tatis Jr. is back from injury. Pirates, Guardians, that's an interesting one. Mets, White Sox. This is one of the few times I am going to go Mets money line. Even with Tyler McGill on the bump, I like this a lot. The Mets need to make a statement in Game 1 at South Side against the White Sox there. So we're going to go New York bet. We're going to go Mets and Yankees overall money line, and that's going to be a 2-leg parlay in this one. That 2-leg, that's going to be 20 to win 26, which means it's also going to be around 10 to win roughly $6 and 10 to win roughly $5 on the Mets bet. So 20 to win 26 overall. Good luck to you all that tail my 2-leg parlay. That is what I'm going with for tomorrow's slate of MLB games, and we'll see how we do, and we will circle back then and break it down either in tomorrow's coverage or in Saturday's coverage. So now to get into more on what stood out so well for David Peterson, let's deep dive his outing, because I really want to highlight David Peterson's brilliance in this one. Then we'll talk a little bit on the pitching. Then we'll wrap up the show with the latest updates in Mets land. Don't have anything too crazy for you all, but just kind of reiterating, as I mentioned, with Daniel Nunez and others, and that's pretty much that. But David Peterson, as we mentioned already, had himself a masterful outing for the Mets in this matchup. And a couple key things to make note of as we evaluate David Peterson in this one is the following. His sinker, which he threw 35% of the time, was sitting 92 and topped out 94. Four-seam fastball sat 92, topped out 95 at 23%. Slider at 22%. Topped out 88, and sat 85. Changeup, topped out 86, sat 84. Curveball, topped out, at 80 and sat 79, 80. And that was, mind you, when he threw 5% of the time. Curveball, he threw 16% of the time. Slider, he threw 22% of the time. And even though he didn't have a lot of strikeouts in this outing, his ability to work those ground ball outs was massive, one that we saw. And also his ability to get solid whiffs on the slider worked too. He had a 50% whiff rate on his slider today, even though, 3 whiffs on the 6 swings. Not going to complain there. Just another calm, cool, comfortably controlled outing for the young southpaw for the Mets. And for David Peterson, my biggest takeaway from his latest outing is that he not only looks comfortable, but he looks a guy that I think we could really start to have in this circle of trust and faith for the Mets here. When we evaluate pitchers for the Mets that we have a level of trust and faith in, there are very few that I can say I have the utmost confidence in, whether it's from the rotation or the bullpen, just because we all know how fickle things can change with pitching in a 162. But in the case of David Peterson, who did not start the season until late as we got into June, because he started the year late with a hip surgery that I had this past offseason, that ended up doing wonders for him. And now Peterson is able to showcase himself deep into games consistently for the Mets for the remainder of the regular season as they push for playoffs, and to add insult to injury in the best way possible, but an insult to injury for opposing teams facing the young southpaw is that Peterson has no reason to dial back. He has all the reason to continue to go full-fledged with his workload. And next time, maybe he will just go 8 innings there, knowing he only had 88 pitches through 7 the way he did against the Diamondbacks. And mind you, this is against the Arizona Diamondbacks, the hottest offense in baseball lately. 5+ runs scored per game. Regardless of Ketel Marte, Christian Walker, and Gabby Moreno not being involved or available due to injury, it doesn't change the great heater the Diamondbacks have still found themselves having. So now you see the Mets with a series victory, a season series victory over 2 of the hottest teams in the National League, and the Padres and the Diamondbacks. That is a recipe for success. Now, what do the Mets need to do? Control their destiny beginning tomorrow against Southside, those Chicago White Sox. On the hitting end, everybody, Budo, Diaz, brilliant. Great bounce back outings. I'm not going to deep dive too much there. Diaz fastball slider was disgusting, and one of the best outings you will see from Edwin Diaz this season without question. On the hitting end, what was the biggest takeaway for sure? It was everything that we just mentioned. They didn't have a lot of hitting prowess in this one for the Mets for sure. They had 10 hits to the Arizona Diamondbacks 7. And funny enough, the Mets did have a 335 expected batting average, so they actually had some The expected numbers were certainly on their side, and they were putting the ball in play, but the offensive execution wasn't there with runners in scoring position, which is what hurt the Mets most in this game, up until Jose Iglesias had something to say there late in this one. The Diamondbacks had 7 hits and a 222 expected batting average, so just not a great day because David Peterson is that good. Yes, that's correct. Francisco Lindor 1 for 4 day with his solo shot, his 28th home run of the year, a 270 average, and an 828 OPS for our most valuable player, and what should be the National League's most valuable player, but I digress. Sterling Marte 0 for 4, not a great day for Marte today. 274 average, 725 OPS. He can be a glaring hole quickly in that 2-hole, and I don't know how much I want him in that 2-hole if I'm being frank. Vientos needs to be there. That's what needs to happen. Brandon Nimmo 2 for 4. Great day for Brandon. Another multi-hit day. 231 average, 750 OPS. Pete Alonso 1 for 4. What a run scored thanks to the solo shot he had. 244 average, 800 OPS. Jesse Winker 2 for 4 with the opposite field double. And what would be a run scored thanks to Tyrone Taylor pinch running for him at 262 average, 780 OPS. Tyrone Taylor with the run scored at 242 average, 685 OPS. Jose Iglesias 1 for 4 with the RBI, 318 average at 821 OPS. Luis Torrens 0 for 3 with a 250 average of 717 OPS. Jeff McNeil, a great 2 for 4 day with a double, a McDouble baby, another one. Sign me up for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. 240 average of 695 OPS. Francisco Alvarez 237 average, 677 OPS. Not recording at bat, but did catch brilliantly Edwin Diaz that we saw in the 9th inning. My question to each and every one of you guys watching this victory for the Mets, what's the faith? What's the confidence level now, guys? How are we feeling? Do you guys feel that there is now a change in the shift in either your feelings or the Mets' momentum swing to secure this series dub the way that they did after faltering the way that they did yesterday? This was without question a game that in 2023, the Mets dragged their feet on and have no life whatsoever because they got the life sucked out of them the day before when they lose in a dramatic fashion. Not the case for the Metsies in this matchup, which I think is very important to make note of, as they still currently sit at least 3.5 games out with potential for it to be still 3 should the Braves lose in their next matchup against the Phillies. To kickstart that series, I want to see everybody. And before I let you all go now, folks, I got the latest updates for you all. As I mentioned, Danilo Nunez is on the shelf with forearm tightness, forearm soreness there. Hopefully, he will return the Mets before the end of the season. But Nunez, who just got back after being out for a month plus with injury, I have to wonder what is the big hiccup here, because things really took a while in his rehab for him to get back up here, and to see him go back down as quick as he did is definitely concerning for that arm, and I pray that isn't a precursor to anything more serious, because Nunez is an electric arm for this Mets team that could really utilize him right now. And to not have Nunez for at least another couple weeks really stinks for this Mets team, because now you are going to have to likely dabble in the waiver wire unless you want to consider guys in-house. And Shintaro Fujinami's there. He's a flamethrowing right-hander you can consider, but do you really want to take that gamble now down the stretch of the season with these games being as important as they are? I see the appeal with his arsenal. I see the lack of appeal knowing his inability to consistently command the strike zone. So that's where I'm going to leave you with on the front of the bullpen, everybody. We did a video earlier today on guys like Drew Smyly, Taylor Rogers, among others that are currently available that the Mets are able to really pounce and try to take advantage in the market should they wish. So let's get into the other Mets updates I have for each and every one of you, if they are anything. And I will just say this is something to make note of. I'm only mentioning this because the Mets name was mentioned in a positive light for a change. And as much as I despise the man, Buster Olney did make a note today that 2 teams interesting to watch for the Taylor Rogers sweepstakes are the Mets and the Red Sox. So don't be shocked if the Mets do find themselves picking up the southpaw, in which they would eat $12 million over the next course of the year for him, for Rogers for 2025. I think that's worth it. I think Taylor is exactly what this Mets team could utilize greatly in this pen as a dominant lefty option, but especially with Danilo Nunez being out, all the more reason to make sure you have proper reinforcements in this bullpen. Peter, huge W, my man. I know that you've been very pessimistic and very upset about the Mets from the comments I see in our post games all the time, so I'm happy to have you in here. I'm happy to see you as happy as we all seem to be after a victorious evening for the Mets as they win this one by a final score of 3-2. But Mets fans, that is about going to do it for the live show. I want to thank you all so much for watching live on a replay. We will be back live tomorrow, either tomorrow or on Saturday. Be on the lookout. Things might be a little fickle with the schedule this weekend just because it is my birthday weekend. Your guys out and about, and I want to enjoy myself. And, you know, depending on the statuses of these games against the White Sox, I may honestly just record a video after the fact instead of a live show. Just be on the lookout for our content each of the next coming days throughout the weekend. If there are any hiccups, I'm just telling you now just because it's my birthday weekend, and that's all there is to it. So thank you guys all so much for watching and listening. A victorious segment, a victorious edition of the New York Metropolitan Postgame segment presented by BetUS, America's #1 sportsbook. Click that link down below in the description. That way you too get a 125% bonus on your first 3 deposits for all your sports betting needs up to $2,000. Click that link down below. Thank you all so much for the endless support. Be on the lookout because in the next series that the Mets partake in which we are doing coverage, as long as we have a weekend of coverage, barring any changes leading to next week, we are going to be taking live callers on the channel again soon. Haven't gotten a chance with the crazy road trip there against the Diamondbacks and against the Padres. I would like to do that sooner rather than later, so be on the lookout for live callers. Want to have your voice heard. Hope to see you there. Thank you guys for the endless support. Let's effing go Mets, baby. Let's continue our winning ways and get back in the win column for more than just one night. Have a great one, folks. Peace out.